festival's theme, and you wonder, we're talking about alternatives and change. This book, is anybody reading it? Because to be honest, if people are reading this book, I don't want my peers should be in jail by now, you know, or be getting at least 10 to 20 lawsuits, you know, from this book. But it is the irony of our time that people don't read books, you know, even though we keep writing them. It's an interesting book for everybody to read, for young people to read, to understand the history of Nigeria. For the young guy who says he wanted to be a journalist, you should read it. It's a fascinating book, very fast-paced, very humorous, very tongue-in-cheek, and very interesting to read. So well done, sir. I will just start by saying, why do you think Nigeria is a fiction? You know, that's my first question to Adoma de Piers. Why did you say this fiction called Nigeria?
It was an invention of a foreign power who not only carved it up, but named it. You know, it was a continuation of slavery.
Some volume, please. I can't hear him here.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Because it was a creation of a foreign conquering power, which even named it. We didn't name it. Nobody thinks it's coherent. We've never challenged it. You know, it's an amalgam of two major. I would hazard it's the most complex country in the world. There's a statement. It's got both major religions. It's then got 350 or so, nobody really knows, but let's say 350 ethnic groups, of which 3 are about 3/4 of the population. All the rest are minorities, and they're made to understand that when they forget themselves. I mean, Ken Saro-Wiwa was the most obvious case. In my view, this country cannot cohere, and it is not cohering. It's gradually falling into anarchy, as it must. And all we can look forward to is more and more confusion. But then, you know, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's just that Nigeria is so complex and so big. We have about 47 countries in Africa. I did a tour of West Africa a couple of years ago to write a book, which will be out in January, called Shine Your Eye. I went to a country like Guinea-Bissau, 1.2 million people. So, you know, the guy I was staying with, very nice young guy who invited me to stay with him, I said, do you know how many people are in my local government is Surulere? I mean, you've got nobody. And true, it's basically a drug transit. That's what it is. The military, such as they have, the Navy especially, because the Americans mostly have clamped down on the passages through the Caribbean and Latin America, the drug people saw Guinea-Bissau as a transit. It's now the biggest transit point for drugs coming from Latin America to Europe. So it's not just that Nigeria is a fiction, all the countries in Africa are a fiction, but we accept it.
Yeah, when I was in the university, I did an essay, and I remember saying that the reason why Nigeria is, you know, so full of trouble is because Africa is like a gun, yeah, and Nigeria is the trigger, so it's always quick to explode. And I'm reading this book again this week, and I'm hearing about Wike and Yerima, the naval officer, and I'm reading today that Willie Obiano has just died. I'm not sure whether it's verified or not. And, you know, it takes you to that last chapter, Dividends of Democracy. Is this what um, Ujudu, Ogaga, all those who died for democracy, is this what they fought for? It makes you wonder. So I'm just going to ask Amsfree if he's there. I know Amsfree is a journalist who now works in the civil society space. Um, he's a younger person too. Adewale might appear. I want to ask, as a young person, um, do you think that this book has any relevance for you? And what are the insights you took away from it?
All right, thank you so much, Tony Kant. I'm 40-something years young.
You're still a small boy.
So I think this is a very fantastic book, 189 pages. I did a very detailed review of the book. And to directly answer your question, this book carries a lot of relevance for the next generation and the new generation. And one thing that stands out for me, probably that was not the author's intention. Maybe there were unintended consequences in how he portrayed the story of Nigeria. One thing that stands out for me is the connection he was able to make between the historical and the present. This continuity. So when we see impunity, for example, the impunity was not just impunity as we experience it today. Colonialism had its own impunity. And we see an example in the book where the very famed historical figure, Jaja of Upobo, was asking the British, what does protection mean? What does protectorate mean? And of course, you could see that whole cunning dimension that the British brought into the colonial enterprise. The fact that they were able to hoodwink some people, use violence to intimidate, the population and actually take over space and then impose a state on Nigeria. That's one dimension of it. The other dimension, which I feel makes the book very relevant, is that there is some elements of hope in terms of the fact that the author was able to offer certain critical pathways, how citizens can organize to reshape the country. And a very good example of that comes from the EndSARS movement. Of course, the way he analyzes the role of the feminist collective, the fact that they were able to use technology, which is something that is increasingly a factor in citizen organization across the book, is something that is very, very encouraging. So while the author might want to present the Nigerian story as a depressing fiction, a lot of things happening that people cannot imagine them happening in a real, proper country, it still offers some measure of hope that with the right attitude, with the right mindset, and with the ability to leverage on tools like technology, citizens can get to organize and push back against the culture of impunity that has become ingrained in the country. Another aspect of the book I think makes it very, very relevant is the fact that the book portrays the fact that Nigerians actually have a very, very short memory. And where history presents to them certain clear facts about the trajectory of the country, the people in the end do not seem to take those historical facts to be serious facts that they need to act on. And he gives one very interesting example, that the current Nigerian leader, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, actually makes a claim to be a descendant of a former slave trading family, and that a square, which is the Tinubu Square in Lagos Island, is named after this slave trading family. So you would expect that a serious country that abhors slavery and everything slavery represents will have gone and made efforts to change that name. Just like we have the street names, in Abuja, in Lagos, being named after confirmed criminals and thieves that have, looted the country. So in the same way, a country that cannot reimagine its past and move forward into the present with a new understanding of how it wants society to be shaped would leave many things hanging. And when those things hang, they tend to become the basis on which people will further act with impunity. So on the whole, without been too much analysis. Just to say that I find this book very, very relevant, and it holds a lot of lessons for how we organize our country going forward.
Thank you very much. When you said that the book offers hope, I saw Adewale Majapies not looking very impressed. Do you think this book offers much hope to us, or do you think it's just a litany of what has gone wrong with Nigeria, and like you say, the country cannot cohere?
Well, I don't think the country can cohere, and it is not cohering. It's things fall apart. Like you say, we don't even question the existence of Tinubu Square. On the contrary, our president, who's not called Tinubu, takes that name as a source of pride. So it's not even that colonialism never ended. Slavery never ended. Now, it's not only a problem in Nigeria, it's a problem in Africa. We need to reimagine our continent, not just the country. And we need to come together as one. Look, Africa, India is 1.5 million people, China 1.4, Africa 1.2. So what's the point of these fiefdoms overseen by old men, look at Paul Biya, who basically just want to rape little girls? That's the bottom line. You know, and we accept it. You know, we continue to hope without hope, but it's not going to change. You know, and if we don't force the change will be forced on us.
Thank you. So, like I said at the beginning, this book captures this dysfunction, you know, in this country, and it persists. I mentioned Wiki at the beginning. After 3 or 4 days, there's been some comments from the Minister of Defense, from some ex-military. The president still has not said a single word about this. You know, one of his top ministers, you know, having this interaction with the military man in public. From my own point of view, my first question when I saw that video was, what was the military man, the naval officer, doing guarding the property? He's not a private, he's not a corporal, he's an officer. What is he doing there guarding that property? 4 weeks ago that UK was out of line to shout or call him names. We have to ask this question. Let's go to Photoshop. So this book, I mean, starts from, you know, the NSAS. SARS no longer a word we hear every day. It's been subsumed under whatever name is subsumed. People lost their lives. So we say there was some success with that protest. Do you think that there is another kind of protest, you know, maybe to push the book further and bring the kind of change Adewale Majapies is advocating for?
Good evening. Sorry about that. I had to go and get this book. Another kind of protest. What have protests solved? What have they achieved in the last, say, 5, 6, 7 years? NSAS, when it happened, what was the eventual? If you read this book and you look at NSAS, what was the eventual result? We really don't know. We really don't know, aside from the fact that people can pass through Lekki, the corridor, without paying any money. That's a really fair story. We don't know what happened. People were, the story was that people were killed, and that's what went down. But what has actually changed? Have things actually improved? I'm not sure a protest will solve anything. And if we read this book, if there's one thing that Mr. Majapies did, it shows that the people who are ruling right now, they read a playbook of what has been happening. This book goes from 1800s down to the present day. There's a playbook of how to rule, divide and conquer, break things down, change the narrative, whatever we want to say, and put in whoever we want to put in. And there's a taxi approval by quote-unquote powers that be. Before then, it used to be the colonial masters, the British. Right now, as the people in government, and like I said, there's a playbook they've read. I mean, some of the things that they are doing right now, they did it during the 1960s, during the time of Awolowo and Akintola. So those two things, they are still in play right now because those people are still there. If you look at some of the people who were earlier on, they are still here. They are still just like the previous speaker said. But Mr. Babafemi Ojudu and the now president, if they could have a meeting with somebody back then, the Shagaris are now the ones running the country, so to speak. So I'm not sure a protest will solve anything right now, aside from the fact that people go out, they will scream, they will do this, they will do that. But will a protest solve anything? I'm not sure.
Thank you. So, when you read this book, what comes to mind is the more things change, the more they remain the same, which is sad. There's a chapter, I think, called Soldier Go and Soldier Come, which is about the military, in government. And talks about, so many things, we was killing and all. And you say Nigeria is a one-chance country. I want to ask, Mr. Ruwa keeps coming up, as a prominent figure in Nigeria's, struggle for democracy. And I know that Adewale has incurred his role by, writing a book about him. I think My Father's Shadow, was that what it was called? Or in response to that book by his son. I want to ask, is there anybody in this room who remembers when Sariwa was arrested and taken to Abuja? Madam Pes, do you know? Yeah, please, Mr. Bello. Does anybody know how that happened? Because I've looked for that and I can't find anywhere where he was arrested and taken to Abuja. What was the circumstance of his arrest? I know there was a killing, then he suddenly appeared in court. But how was he arrested? Because there have been stories around it. And, why I'm saying this is that we need to also, Mr. Bello, please. Can I please increase the volume? I can't hear him, please.
Oh, you can't. Okay. It was post-election violence in Ogoniland. Did you hear that?
Yes.
So he was arrested in the circumstance of alleged complicity in the murder of some Ogoni elders. Those were the circumstances of his arrest and his arrival in Abuja, and subsequently that led to his hanging.
So what I'm asking is this: was he arrested in Port Harcourt, Lagos, or Abuja, or was he flown to Abuja by Abacha? Because we've kind of canonized many people in this whole battle for democracy, and like I said before, the more things change, the more they remain the same. Those people who fought against Tinubu are now in his government. So now young people are a bit, they're kind of tired of joining in this protest, because at the end of the day, it seems as if who makes the loudest noise, gets inducted into government. So I don't want to appear. How do you see former comrades in arms, former so-called activists, former progressives, now dining, as it were, with those who are put us where we are?
Sarajevo was close to Abacha from the 1960s.
Yes.
They were neighbors, their children played together.
Yeah.
And he was taking government military contracts right until he saw the light. Yeah. And then that was what drove Abacha insane. The same thing that drove his own the elders who he tried to displace, because they would say exactly what Abacha said. You will sit down with Sarajevo and discuss something. The next thing, he'll excuse himself and go and give an interview in Switzerland or America. I knew Sarajevo. I don't think he was an honest fellow. He didn't explain, for instance, how it was that he could just fly to Abuja and see Abacha. You and I can't just fly to Abuja and see Abacha. He was arrested in Port Harcourt on the day the chiefs were killed. According to the authorities, he had told the youth that the chiefs were meeting and sharing shell contract. Now, he wasn't personally there, but the youth were made to tell all sorts of lies against him. That's how it was built.
Yeah, so I asked him, I said, what do you think about former comrades, former activists who have now, become part of the problem?
Well, that's a human story. Money, position. We don't need to mention people, but we had two journalists here, Bao and
Ojudu.
Well, what happened to Bayo Onaniga? Where is he now? Was he not one of those in the forefront? I knew these guys. We used to meet, and they were all fiery, when they went underground. And Bayo was actually the leader. Now look at him. So, money.
All right. So I've been told that we need to end this now. So I'm going to ask you one more question, Madam Pierce. Don't you get tired of recounting these issues? When will you join them to chop?
I'm really tired. Like I said, I recently embarked on a journey around West Africa for a book called Shine Your Eye, In Search of West Africa. It's supposed to be the first volume of the trilogy, and the second one is a journey from Lagos to Johannesburg via Cape Town. I want to get Nigeria out of my mind. I've written too much about it. I'm sick of it. And I believe that in my book, I've said what I can say. I'll only be repeating. In fact, I've already started repeating. So yeah, I'm done.
When will you join them to go and chop?
They didn't call me. If they call me, I'll tell you.
Thank you very much. They say we have to cover this now. Thank you for joining us.
Usually quick. You want to say something? No, when I call you, no. Pictures, please. Sorry, Felicia. We have to. Attention, please. Oh, no. Only need to see. Please, the next item is SANYA. And as I mentioned, the reason we're doing SANYA is because this now is the best fiction work, novel, in Nigeria now, having won the $100,000.
Recording stopped.
The $100,000 of Nigerian Prize for Literature. So, out of 262 books entries, Saya won the first prize of the great prize of $100,000, and it is endowed by the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas. So we're going to ask the manager corporate publication to step out and lead us into this. It's a special one we're doing because the writer is not around, she's in London. So we're going to do a reading of it and then a review of it. What we call a performed reading. I hope the actor is able to perform it. It's a very brief event which we want to record and push out. We believe that the book that has won needs to travel. The book should travel. Everybody should read the book. That's what we're trying to do. Whatever we get from there, we'll be able to say out. And people have been asking me for small job. On this occasion, there's small job. So if you step out, you step out. I think you can distribute you have the permission of the manager to distribute the small job now. The small job is not from the $100,000. She has not even spoken to me. Please, once we settle down, I would like to bring to the front Anne-Marie Palma Ikuko, Manager Corporate Communication of Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas. I'm now privileged to say that she's my sister, but she has never made me to win this prize. And she's been the most enduring personnel on this prize project. And we just launched a new prize, which is going to speak. Please, can we sit down now before I mention names? I'm going to mention names. Please, can you control the bag? Let's sit down. Please. Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Anne-Marie Palma, who is the manager. I'm sure I should take your attention. Okay, she will introduce herself. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you for coming. My name is Anne-Marie Palma, and I'm manager corporate communications and public affairs for NLNG. I'd like to first of all thank Cora for always hosting the winners of the Nigerian Prize for Literature every year. They always throw the spotlight on them. And this partnership has been on for a long while. Please help me give a round of applause to Cora. Thank you so much. And to everyone here as well, who is here to listen to SANYA, the reading and then to engage with her. Thank you also for coming. The chairperson of the advisory board describes SANYA as a very daring work. She said it's very daring, and for Oyin to reinterpret the story, the Yoruba mythology. She said it was very daring, and for her to even reimagine Shango as a woman makes it very unique. So this evening, please listen to Oyin. I think she's online as she joins us. So you engage with her. Ask her questions, what inspired her, etc. But before I leave, I'll quickly say a few words about the new prize that has been launched by NLNG. It's a prize to encourage our young people aged 18 to 35 to learn about our story, our Nigerian story, and to send in short documentaries, 20 minutes or less. Look around them, anything that helps them to tell the story of Nigeria, short documentary, and send it in. That would help them. They form the larger part of our generation, of our demography now, and they need to understand more of our story. So it's for them to do the research, do the documentary, and tell the story in a way that their peers can also be able to engage and understand our culture and our identity. So please, if you know any young person between 18 and 35, please encourage them. The call for entries is open, but the submissions will be open in February to end of April. So please, they should send in, they can start thinking of doing their research now and thinking of what story do they want to tell about their identity. The prize is $20,000. So thank you very much.
Gods of our fathers, gods of our fathers, are to Mario, to Mario, gods of our fathers, gods of our fathers, to Mario. In the beginning, gods and sorcerers ruled the West. The gods were called the Orisha. They were also called the good ones. For every good thing that happened was brought about by their benevolence. Orishas dwelt amongst men and sometimes saw fit to bear seed with them. And any also that birthed the offspring of the Orishas was greatly revered. Sorcerers, on the other hand, were not as revered. They had sprung from one Orisha, Eshu, and they were known for magic that was sometimes dark. While some did not think that magic was a bad thing, others were wary of sorcerers because their powers were rooted in disobedience. Eshu was the first and most popular Orisha created by Eledumare. He was trusted and cherished by Eledumare and endowed with the privilege of carrying out important tasks, one of which was to see to the needs of humans at the special request of the Supreme Being. After several errands, Eshu became ambitious and craved human relations much more than with its own kind. One of such trips to Earth, Eshu never returned. He settled in the West and started a family. His children, born out of congress with humans, were the first sorcerers. His offspring wielded their own kind of power, different from the Orishas. It was sustained by intense emotion, and soon they wreaked so much havoc with this power that men cried out to Eledumare for succor. And it was decided to send the Orishas to restore peace on earth. The Orishas descended to earth and settled quietly among the people to serve as mediators. They lived purely as priests, performing cleansing sacrifices for the people and the land, and purging it to the consequences of dark magic. Their popularity spread across the West, and they were constantly sought by men for cleansing rituals or restoration of peace and order. They were worshipped as gods and mated with humans who bore up divine offspring, descendants of the Orisha. Soon, no one held Eshu and his kin in high esteem anymore. The sorcerers were regarded with scorn, and all that had to do with Eshu was forbidden. This did not sit well with Eshu. He had suffered rejection in heaven and had no intention of accepting it on earth. The sorcerers, children of Eshu, decided to go to war with the gods, the Orishas. They engineered the creation of a being born of diabolical union between Orisha and sorcerer. This being possessed abominable power, and under Eshu's control was the catalyst of a war that shook the foundations of the world. The fearsome battle lasted for several years. Dark magic scorched the earth, and thunderbolts blighted the heavens as the divine battled. And humans suffered because the earth was cracked and broken. The war brought famine with it. The sky was parched. There was a dreadful drought in the land. Once again, the humans, they cried out loud to Eledumare to save them. And he looked down and saw that all was not well. For the second time, he unmanned the sorcerer's diabolical creation and called for a truce between the Orishas and the children of Eshu. Eshu's children would not consider a truce unless their demands were. For all they cared, if the war were to last until eternity, they were more than ready for it. The earth was their home, and they would not be disregarded and usurped even there. After all, their father had been the first of the Orishas to make a home on earth. And so they ought to do it with it as they saw it. Then Eledumare considered their arguments and came to a decision. The Orishas were to leave the land of man, but they couldn't come back to Orun as their positions had already been filled by other entities. So an alternate world was created for them. The Orishas were pleased with their new realm and gladly relocated. They were to revisit the realm only with the permission of the Queen Mother and were banned from furthering mating with men. Their already existing descendants have divine offspring, thought they were to remain on earth and take up lowly positions and would not evoke conflict. But as for him and his children, they were to stop all forms of dark magic and sorcery immediately. To placate them, Eledumare decreed that they could assume the roles of kings and rulers in the West, and their descendants would hold sole lineage to every throne. Eshu was given his own realm away from the other Orishas. And lastly, Eledumare forbade any union between the lineage of Eshu and the offspring of the Orishas that remained on earth. Then he ascended back into heaven. Eshu's descendants ruled as royalty, while the offspring of the Orishas were content to be simply farmers, tradesmen, and artisans. And time passed, and memory faded, and laws became myth. And because only beginnings are sure and no end is certain, another new beginning was born. Àgbààgbà púpọ̀ lọ sóde ayé, àgbààgbà púpọ̀ ń bọ̀ látòde ọ̀run. Wọ́n fẹ́ mọ̀ báyé ṣe rí, láti wá mọ̀ báyé ṣe wà. Àgbààgbà púpọ̀ ń bọ̀ látòde ọ̀run. Thank you very much.
Nathaniel Olawoyin, actor, dancer, stage manager. Actually, he's the stage manager for the entire festival. So he's so busy and he's still doing it. And tomorrow he's still going to be on the panel. Thank you very much. And I'm sure Oyin herself is impressed. I have to say that earlier there was Dr. Olugbile that was there. So I asked him if he has seen the money. He said not yet. Please make sure he gets the money. Dr. Olugbile, Oyin's father-in-law, and he's also an award-winning writer. In fact, I encourage you to read his Pelewura. I think that was one of the best historically captured stories. Thank you very much, Oyin. Now we're going to have the review, which is very short, and then we have engagement with you, and that will wrap it. Okay, Oyin? I hope you heard me. Okay. So to do the review, I only know her as my sister, is Aysha Abdullahi. Aysha for a long time had been scattering in terms of, you know that the first time I encountered her name, she actually started the first children-friendly festival in Abuja. Started gathering children. You know, don't say Abuja is not literature friendly or culture friendly. She started doing it by bringing the other people's children to that space. And she's a reader. She's the only one you can give a book and under 4 days. I mean, I'm still struggling two months after. She's the festival director for read book, Children Literary Festival, and Abuja First Dedicated Literary Festival, dedicated literary festival to children, and she's the managing director of Karatu Books, an African literature bookstore. Aisha, I hope you know you. She runs the literature borders literature. The two of you have to engage. Do the festival. You have conversation. So Aisha will be review, and then we engage with Oyin, and that will wrap this up. Aisha.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's been a very okay. Can you hear me now? Good evening, everyone. It's been a very long day full of some very interesting and explosive panels. And I think it's fitting to wrap up the evening with this engagement. So I read SANYA when it came out very early, I think about a week after, because I like African mythology. I think one of my favorite genres is African mythology, Afrofuturism, and just speculative fiction. So it was a very, very easy sell for me to read to read SANYA, and I immediately loved it. In fact, I loved it so much so that I read it again. I didn't even know that I was going to do this, but I read it again a few months later, and I was very, very much, I still had that conviction. So when I attended the book party for the long list, I told two of my friends that I know SANYA is going to win this prize. And I was right, you know, because it's a very, very, it's a story that a lot of us know, but it's told in a way that it's told in a way that is very evocative, that we need to sit down and do a lot of thinking. And it's something that I think, you know, everyone would find, even if African mythology isn't your jig, you would still find that you would pick one or two things. Let's not go into the technicalities of the writing style and all of that. It's still that's also that I can talk about that for hours. But I'll just read my review, which is very short because I didn't know that I was going to read it out to an audience, so please excuse me. It's also spoiler free, so that anyone who hasn't read SANYA should please read it, and you know you can make your own opinions of the book. All right. Hello, Oyin. Thank you very much for joining us. It's lovely to meet you, well, virtually, but it's lovely to meet you. I'll be reading my review, and then we will ask Oyin a couple of questions. We've run out of time, so just some very short questions, and then we'll probably get some questions from the audience. Oyin Olugbile's SANYA is one of those rare novels that feels at once mythic and intensely personal. It is a book that reaches deep into Yoruba cosmology but speaks in very contemporary emotional language. What Olugbile does here is bold. She reimagines a familiar divine archetype, the thunderous force associated with Shango, and pours it into the body of a woman. The result is a story that destabilizes everything you know, everything you think you know about myth, gender, and power. From the beginning, SANYA is marked by destiny. Her birth carries a prophecy, the kind that simultaneously crowns a person and crushes them under its expectation. This idea of being born into a role you didn't choose, a savior, a warrior, an omen becomes one of the novel's strongest emotional threads. Her journey feels epic, but the epicness never overwhelms the deeply human ache underneath. There is also grief woven into her foundation. The early death of her mother is not simply a backstory device. It becomes part of the emotional landscape SANYA must navigate. There's a sense that she's constantly trying to fill an absence, the missing mother, the missing normal childhood, the missing freedom that prophecy steals from a young girl. At the heart of SANYA is a fierce interrogation of patriarchy. The society she inhabits is one where female power is feared, questioned, or outrightly dismissed. The fact that SANYA must masquerade as a man to claim her rightful place is both a narrative twist and a thematic statement. It speaks to how women across cultures have been forced to shrink, hide, or disguise themselves to access what should already belong to them. Yet, the book never becomes didactic. Olugbile keeps the storytelling grounded in emotion and conflict rather than ideology. She uses myth not as an escape from reality, but as a mirror held to the realities of being a woman, especially a woman marked as too powerful, too different, or too destined. I'm sure many women here can relate with that. What is most impressive is how seamlessly Olugbile blends the supernatural with the intimate. The gods, the spiritual realm, the signs and visions, all of this feels like extensions of the character's inner lives rather than external forces. Destiny is not some faraway cosmic script, it is a weight pressing on SANYA's chest, a voice whispering behind her ear, a path she tries to question but cannot fully escape. Stylistically, the book is rich with Yoruba proverbs, idioms, and oral cadence. The language is clean, vivid, and controlled. Nothing is overwritten. And then there is Olugbile's boldness. Writing SANYA, a female embodiment of a deity traditionally imagined as male, is an act of creative rebellion. Not rebellion for shock value, but rebellion for narrative possibility. SANYA is ultimately a story about power, inherited power, feared power, misunderstood power, and the cost of carrying it. It asks what it means for a woman to step into a destiny that terrifies the world around her. It asks what sacrifice looks like. It asks what we owe our families, our communities, and ourselves. The novel is mythic, but its pains are familiar. It is fantasy, but its emotions are starkly real. What stays with you is not just the magic of the prophecy, but the girl beneath the thunder, SANYA herself. Brave, burdened, gifted, flawed, and absolutely unforgettable.
Aysha, the founder of Read Book. Thank you very much, Aysha. I hope you can get, because you were asking for the review. I hope you can get it. Okay. So you can sit down. So now to engage Oyin, I'm not going to be doing this. I'll call on your fellow Londoner, who is also a writer. I think the two of you must have met somewhere in London. Lukman Sanusi. I've never been to London, so I won't engage a Londoner. Lukman Sanusi is a writer himself, in fact, a writer for children, and an actor and a broadcaster. Lukman.
Right. Hello, Lukman.
How are you? This my Oga German likes to stampede. Okay. Thank you. You know, I always swallow my microphone, so you're giving me double microphone. First of all, I was going to ask you $100,000 questions, but they told me because of lack of time, I should only ask you 3. First of all, how does it feel to, I don't know, have you been paid $100,000?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
All right. Because I have promised everybody here on your behalf that, you know, they are going to get part of the largesse. So now, but
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I'll give you my account number. Don't worry. Then we can.
All right, no problem.
So first of all, what's your reaction to that young man's performance? Where is it? What's his name? What's his name? Oh, please! I think he deserves another round of applause. I'm so
Yes,
jealous.
it actually does.
So that's the first question. What's your reaction to his performance, the reading? That's one. The second question is, what's the reaction to the review? Do you agree with the reviewer, with Aysha, or she's just in her own word? And the third question, and the most important question, is please be expecting my account numbers. All right, quick one.
So I'm going to start with Aisha's review. While she was reading, first of, good evening, everyone. Good evening, LABAF. Thank you so much for honoring SANYA, for honoring Oyin Olugbile. Thank you for being here, for everyone that's read SANYA, everyone that's celebrated SANYA. Can everyone hear me though?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's because of the love from the readers and the appreciation of the literary work that's actually won the award. So I will say thank you, a very big thank you once again. Thank you very much. Then now back to Aisha's review. I had goosebumps while she was reading that review. I think a teardrop actually formed somewhere as well, because I feel very honored because Aisha captured exactly the essence of the book, of the story. I wouldn't even say the book, of the story, of the idea itself on the roles of gender and what we know as African mythology and how we can interpret it for generations to come, right? And so her review basically just encapsulates everything. And thank you very much, Aisha. I'd like a word copy of that just to put it out there for bragging rights, and said, oh, Aisha wrote this about SANYA. Thank you very much.
All right, a quick one too, even though.
Yes, and then now to the young man's performance. Thank you. Wow, I was like, okay, is this did I write all of this, or this guy is is performing something from an amazing book. Thank you. The performance was top notch. The interpretation was it was real, and thank you very much. And I think the third one is about your account details.
All right. Now, this is my own personal question. The questions I asked was what German asked me to ask you.
To ask me?
Is a puppet master. My own question is, what is the idea behind reimagining Shongo as a woman?
I think I'm just going to go back to Aisha's review. It's from a rebellious mind. I'm kind of a very, very rebellious person. So the way I come to understand things is, for example, let me just simplify it. If someone tells me 2 + 2 is 4, I'll probably question it and ask you why it's not 22 or 2.2 or something like that. Why does it have to be 4? So that's the kind of mind that I have, and that kind of mind is constantly searching, constantly curious. And so my background is that I come from a family of writers. My dad was a writer for NTA programs back in the day. So I've come to understand, at a very young age, I started to love literature and the works of Wole Soyinka. I was a very big fan of Wole Soyinka. I am still a very big fan of Wole Soyinka, by the way. And so when you read books like Wole Soyinka's books, Chinua Achebe's books, and the likes, you start to imagine life before you were born, and the kind of setting and the traditions and culture and all of these things. And you also get to not only appreciate them, but also dig deeper into cultural nuances and the rest of that. So fast forward to studying theatre at Creative Arts at the University of Lagos, I kind of just embellished all of the knowledge that I've come to acquire over time as a lover of arts and literature, basically. But then something that it did for me was that it also left me with a lot of questions, right? It left me with more questions than I would dare say knowledge. And with my kind of mind, I do not like gaps within my headspace. I like to be able to fill things up and say, okay, this makes sense to me. You understand? So whilst writing Shango, it was just from that curious mind, that gap to say certain things just did not feel right in terms of research and digging deeper about our deities, our culture, and the rest of that. So I said to myself, I said, okay, how do I think that this story is actually going to make sense and be creatively stimulating for my kind of mind and the minds of other younger generations or people like myself? You understand? So that was where the idea for SANYA came. In fact, a fun fact, I think I've said this like maybe once or twice somewhere, that the title, the original working title for SANYA was when the gods come to play, right? But and then it was after that the eventual title came out. But the idea was that when gods come to play, things, several things come to play as well, right? So like I said, it's from a curious mind. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it does. It does, to be honest.
Yes.
But how long, quickly, how long does it take, did it take you to finish the book?
Quite a while, quite a while. I would say for two reasons, or maybe three. The first and most important reason is because whilst writing, I'm also a mom. I'm having children. I'm, being in that space where I'm having to focus on the family, right? And the second part of it is because as 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 a researcher, as an academic researcher, I understand that it takes time to be able to put together um, um, paper or things together to be able to write it. So I actually took my time. Sometimes I would just have this, maybe I have a scene in my head for months, for weeks, and all of that before putting it down. But the idea for Sonia was conceptualized in 2017, right? And then I wrote the plot, I wrote the first chapter, I wrote all of those things and just left it because I was pregnant with my second child at the time. And then I had my baby in 2018. I had a few family issues, tragedies and the rest of that, so it was left there. But I kind of just still wrote a few, did a bit of research as well. Then in 2020, it was done it was first done in 2020. By 2021, I started to speak to my editor. I had to talk to an editor in 2021, and then we just brushed the entire thing up. And by the end of 2021, I'd spoken to the publisher, who agreed to take on the work. And I believe that by 2022, early 2022, there was still a bit of work done on it as well, and it was eventually published in 2022. So I'll say about 5 years.
Wow, that's very good. And finally, like I told you, I'm going to send you my account number so I can share the money with these people. All right. Thank you very much. I'd like to call on Mr. German to. Do you have any question? Do we have questions? No. Any other person from Francis? Have you read the book?
All right, thank you. First, thank you, Aisha. I mean, your review just stamped something in my head. And if a copy is here, I'd like to pick up a copy, to buy a copy. Well done, congratulations, Olugbile. But I'm curious though, why was it Shango, for instance, that you picked? I mean, out of the various Oya, there's Ogun, there's Oshun, and all that. So what inspired you to make that singular decision to pick Shango as your
Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Francis. I'm a big fan of yours, by the way, of your acting. Thank you very much. So the thing is, you can't talk about Shango, obviously, without talking about Oya, without even talking about Shango's lineage of Oromiyan and Oduduwa and all of that, right? You can't also talk about Shango without talking about Ajaka, his older brother, Dada, right? Because if people would just know Shango as Shango, they actually do not know that Shango was, I believe, maybe the third or the fourth Alaafin of Oyo, because he took over from his brother Ajaka. But then the fun fact there is that Ajaka was known as he was also called Dada. So that's saying that Dada Oleja, Shubola Bro to Bojule, that was actually Shango and Ajaka. But a lot of people actually missed that because that proverb, people did not know the origin. But then when you read SANYA, you would see lots of the other characters come to play in there. So because, like I said, you can't talk about Shango without talking about all of the other characters or personalities that surrounded Shango as an individual back then, right? So it's just like telling the original Shango story, but in a different form. So most of the other characters are there, and they're bearing other. They still some of them still wear their original personalities, but some of them are also hidden in plain sight, like I like to say, and because of my curious mind, I've not only imagined Shango, I've imagined a few other characters or deities, even from other tribes, like the Igbo cosmology as well, right? So maybe I should use this forum to say that you should expect more things from me, and me talking about other deities, even from other tribes. So it's not just Shango, Uncle Francis.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? All right, so, okay. And then after you, Oga Publisher.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ayo Animation. The book,
Put it here.
from the review, the book sounds very interesting. From the review, I've not read it yet, but from the review, I feel like I've already embodied it. I already enjoyed it. But there's one thing missing out in our community and in our society in general. We are not in a reading society. And few of us that love to pick up books wish to see those books. I'm in a media business. I always want to see this type of story. Anyone here, I believe some people here will have watched the movie Spartacus, the movie Troy. These are stories that are mystical, and I've never seen any of our own story being put in that scale. The way I embodied that review, can I watch that same book, that same movie, and felt that same spark? So my advice and my question, are you looking forward to partner, use what you have now to gather the necessary resources to make a movie that is outstanding, not the Nigerian movie that we know?
All right. Okay. So I'm going to take another question so that you can take the two at the same time. Publisher,
right.
Publisher, quickly. Now come back to you. Yeah. We'll just keep it short because I've been told that we're jumping out of time.
Thank you, Oyin. Okay, I should stand up. Okay. Thank you so much, Oyin, for the work that you've done. I'm interested in the part of the central conflict in that book. There's a passage where Sonya's elder brother or twin brother or whatever it is gets into the palace, and then surprised that this is the celebrated, empress that he's heard so much about, and he gets very jealous. I mean, and let me not sell anything. Let people go and read. But I'm interested in why you chose the conflict between siblings. Why that is a central core of the book. Thank you.
All right, you can take the two at the same time.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ayanima Shaun. Yes. Whilst writing SANYA, the idea was for SANYA to be distributed for to a global audience, and a global audience for the sake of giving Nigeria a global voice, right? You talked about Spartacus, and you talked about Troy and all of these very amazing stories. And trust me, I have the same sentiments because I'm a big Marvel fan, and in my house I have a very big shield of Captain America there, and oftentimes I think to myself, I'm like, why do we not have African gods as heroes on a global scale as well, right? I think Marvel tried to do something with Wakanda at some point, but yeah, I believe that we have more. And whilst writing SANYA, what pictured in my head was that we begin at some point we would start to have our own superheroes like Thor as well, because you see the thing with African culture is that it's been so, how would I put it now? Because oftentimes people say it's pagan worship, it's this, it's that. I mean, we watch Marvel and Thor and all of these other people, and they don't worship them. They just showcase them. They just show to the people that this is from us, basically. And I believe that if we can begin to do the same thing, we don't necessarily have to be pagans for us to be able to celebrate our culture and showcase it to a global audience. So yes, we're speaking to a few people already, international agents, to see how this can actually be pushed to that standard, the level of standard that you're talking about. Yes, so I hope that answers the question, Mr. Yohanema.
Yeah. He says yes.
Yes, thank you.
Then the second
Yes.
question.
Yes, the second question
Conflict between
is
two
this.
sisters.
So, you know that we all know, if we're all very familiar with Shango's story, Shango is also known as Obakoso, the king that did not hang, right? And because the end of Shango basically was that he hung on a tree, and then by the time they went to get his body, the body was gone, basically. Now, if we look back to the original history, Shango basically toppled his brother Ajaka, because Ajaka was known as a very weak king in the original story. He was known as a weak king. In fact, some people would describe Ajaka as a cripple. Basically, I think he had one bad leg or two bad legs. I can't. But then, from a curious mind and from an academic research standpoint, you start to say to yourself that what was so shameful for Shango to have hung himself as an individual, first off, and what was so mysterious in such a way that his body was not found? Like, what exactly was someone trying to hide? So when you start to break all of these things down in terms of theory, theoretical framework, and fiction, faction, reality, you start to put a few things together, and you say to yourself that, okay, if Shango, at the end of the day, the original Shango, toppled his brother as king, his brother would not sit down idle and just watch. Obviously, he's going to do something about it, right? And if, from my own mind, imagining this character as a woman and thinking that, oh, why did this individual even hang himself? He was a very powerful god, for crying out loud. What was the shame that such a powerful god would have gone to hang himself and then the body was not found? Something was amiss. So those were the gaps for me on my mind, right? So and I think that in terms of sibling rivalry, I think one of the greatest conflicts in human history has been sibling rivalry. It started from, people who say charity begins from home, but then contention also starts from home as well, right? So and I believe that if I thought about the original Shango story and I was reimagining it, I would say to myself that, okay, Shango hung himself because something was found out about him and his brother was going to spill, and then he decided to, let me just kill myself, right? So, and then there you will see why that sibling rivalry led to the end of Shango, basically. I don't know if that answers.
All right, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Olu Okekonyi. Everybody has spoken well about your writing, the review, and everything. I just want to say something about my brother who says a work like that should be put in film, and he wants to say if he's really a media person, I am sure he will understand that we have so many films like that. Even Obakoso was put into film, epics, you know. And I remember Femi Lasode did a film, Shango, which I played Ajaka, you know, the last brother that Shango took over the palace. So, my brother, you need to do a lot of research and know that we have so many epic films like that, okay?
All
so
right.
Don't limit yourself.
Okay, it's not a call and response because hang on, I'm just going to take another question and then after that we'll wrap up and that's it. No, just after her, I'm going to round off.
Hello, Mrs. Olugbile.
Do you care to stand up for camera?
Hi, my name is Nia. I am an about to be published author myself. So my question is two-pronged. What was the publishing process like for you as a new author publishing in Nigeria? How seamless was it? The wait period is like, was it, how was it in general? Was it a good experience as a first-time author? And then secondly, with the reception that SANYA has gotten, do you feel pressure to continue to write in that same vein, writing about mythology and stuff, or do you intend to diversify and write, you know, creative fiction, other kinds of more modern stories, thrillers, things like that?
All right.
Okay. Do you want me to answer now?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Nia. Publishing. Good. Okay. So the thing is, someone asked me this question once and said, "Oh, were you ever rejected? Was your work ever rejected?" I'll say yes, by one publishing house. I'm not going to mention. But what it did for me was that I had to look at the manuscript again. So that rejection actually maybe prompted a near perfect work for me. And then typically I would just say to people, once you get rejected, please look at that manuscript again. There's something you just need to look at it again, basically. And that was what I did. And then when I sent it to another publisher, I mean, by the time we sent it to another publisher, it was already what it was, SANYA, right? And the publisher did also, in fact, the publisher pursued me so much. At a point, I said I was going to back up. First, I said, "Oyin, if I don't publish this work, I'm going to be so disappointed in myself." So, but because I'd done all of the work, now the waiting process wasn't that tedious because first off, I was determined not to self-publish. I was determined to go through a proper publishing house that was going to represent me in every way possible, right? So, and because I understood at the point the legal and all of the other implications of going through a publishing house. So if the wait can actually be a bit discouraging, and that's the truth. But then at the end of the day, when you get that publishing house that publishing firm or company that is ready to take on your work, I would say that go into that negotiation room with all of your head, your eyes, your ears, everything, so you can have a very good negotiation for yourself and maybe even a legal representative as well. So please wait, be patient. If at the end of the day you're going to get a very good publishing deal, I would say that I would just encourage you to wait and so that you can enjoy the benefit of it. And then the second question, I think I'm forgetting the second question now.
All right, quick.
Thank you.
Mythology, was it?
Yes, I said with the reception it has gotten. I mean, you won a whole prize. Do you feel pressure to keep writing in that same vein or diversify?
So the thing with Oyin is that I try not to pressure myself. In fact, and it's an irony because I try to give myself a lot of standards. But the thing is, you will definitely see a lot more African mythology works from me. A lot of more fantasy as well because I'm also working on children's fantasy as well. I mean, I could tell a million and one stories on African mythology from even out of Nigeria because of research, right? And maybe also because of studies as well, right? And it's so at some point you will see more works that diversify that are out of African mythology, but I think for now I'm just comfortable within that space of being an African storyteller, if that makes sense.
All right, yeah, it does. All right, please, can we give Oyin a big round of applause? At this juncture, I'm going to call on German to conclude his story.
Thank you, Lukman. We all grew up in the tradition of stampede, so you've been stampeded. You can go to court if you don't like it. Thank you. Your lawyers will drink tea and then they'll sleep off, as it happened during the election. Thank you very much, everyone. Oyin, thank you so much. And as we were speaking,
thank you, Mr. German.
Yeah, my eye just caught someone here. Carolina, can you stand up? She's in Brazil, Rio, with Ajoyemi, and they've been promoting African culture. They are the founders of the African Pride. If you remember that picture, yeah? Yeah?
Sorry, sir. Just, enjoying these moments because I wanted to do just this quick question. I had not the opportunity to read yet, but I wanted to ask you if there is any plans to take the book to Portuguese public, like in Brazil?
Yes, definitely, because I know that Shogo is worshipped in there and is known as Tango. So yes, definitely.
Fantastic.
So invite me, I'll come.
We are doing it right now, please.
Okay, just to write on that, the book, the Shoyinka book, the one that was translated to Portuguese was by, they facilitated it. And then they also, remember that picture of Shoyinka and the president of Brazil, locking head and saying, pour your wisdom in my head. They organized it with Ajoyemi. Thank you very much for doing that. And there's a big plan they're having, the return journey of people doing it with Shoyinka to people coming back from Brazil. They'll be on a boat and there'll be performance all through. I'm involved, right? So I know the story. It's the real return journey of people who went there who had to come back to this place. Are you there? I have to acknowledge especially Mr. Kudus. Can you just step out, Kudus? He doesn't like it. We are here because of Kudus. Kudus is the director of this place, the director CEO of the Yoruba John Randu Center for Yoruba Culture and History. Long name. But thank you very much, Kudus, and your team, Oyewole, and everybody, Emmanuel, all those who work with us on this place. We'll be back here tomorrow. But then we're running out of time because we also have the Ken Saro-Wiwa Prize for Book Review, which is happening at the Freedom Park. And that session is also sponsored by the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas. So we're going to delay them. They are not used to staying up at night. But people are already waiting for us to come and do the announcement. It's a competition. Every year we set up a competition where we ask young people, especially, to read certain books. Last year it was Shoyinka. They read 5 books of Shoyinka. They wrote the review, and then we give them prize. This year they've read Ngugi Watongo's 5 books of Ngugi, and the best